Hey guys, and welcome back to another week of DXV podcasting with Nye, Chris, and Ollie. This week we'll be talking about round 15 of the Gallagher Premiership action, Women's Six Nations, and next weekend's games, which sees the final round of Six Nations rugby. So let's get to it. So Gallagher Prem guys, big weekend all round. Round 15 action. Saw third place Saracens take on ninth place Gloucester. First place Saints take on seventh place Tigers. Sixth place Chiefs take on second place Bath. Fifth place Bristol take on 10th Newcastle. And last but not least, eighth place Sale take on fourth place Quins. Some pretty big scores across the board there, guys. What do you guys think of kind of key games? Any standout games for you guys? Any surprises in there?
A couple of surprises, right? So I think the Bristol game, although the result not necessarily a surprise, the scoreline probably
huge.
Yeah,
Massive.
like record score for the Prem, 85 to 14, and the 14 from Newcastle came from bit of luck, to be honest. I was like, I couldn't watch the Bristol game in full because I was watching the Sale game, and I couldn't have both of my screens on and focus. And as a Sale fan, I refused to distract my attention from what was the most important game of the weekend. But every 2 seconds, or like every 2 minutes, you'd see like a flash up of like, try Bristol, try Bristol, try Bristol.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
I call that as well. It was carnage.
It had an air of what was a sort of professional unit running out against boys, and some of the tries I think were just unexcusable for a defence from Newcastle. I think
problem is though, like once you start getting beaten by that kind of margin, your head kind of goes down a bit. Like it's just like there's nothing we can do here. And you saw it in Steve Diamond's after match interview where he's like, some of the player, I mean, he's harsh, but some of the players were, he basically said like some of these players aren't good enough to be in the Premiership, and they've now been told. And we found a few more today. I was like, Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, it was massive, right, mate? Like, you know, a lot of feedback on like Newcastle being last place. 5 points. They won 5 points, aren't they?
From whole season.
all from bonus points, like because they've lost every game. They've yet to win a game this season.
I mean, I got like points difference minus 306, like, and to not have any sort of blowback in terms of relegation or anything like that. I think a lot of people have made a sort of a fair point, but let's not bash
who do you bring back up? Like it's I think relegation is the kind of where you want to aim to. The problem you face in, and a lot of people relate it back to like what is the French Pro D2, which is an awesome league, right? You see the likes of Courtney Laws go in there next season, off the Breve, and a few others that have kind of made their way into. I think was it George North was supposed to go play there as well. Was supposed to go play in the Pro D2, which is effectively their championship. But it's got a much bigger following. The stadiums are much bigger. A lot of these championship clubs just couldn't support the volume that would be required of, say, you know, the Harlequins and Leicester, two of the most well-supported sides in the Prem. Like, where are all their fans going to go when they turn up? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like their stadiums are huge either. They're only fielding about 16,000 apiece. So, yeah, it's a tough one, and I do understand where the Prem are coming from in terms of like you have to have a stadium of a certain size. I think the only one now that has a stadium big enough is Doncaster. But you can't. Yeah, you want to see drama at both sides of the table, right? So you want to see people competing to win, but also competing not to lose at the bottom. But at the same time, you've got to marry that against like actually being able to put on a spectacle.
And again, people are going to turn up and watch. Yeah, it's sort of fan base, and it is, no matter how bad we think sort of Newcastle Falcons have played this year, and they've suffered some heavy defeats, obviously this weekend being one of them. But if we're going to sit there and watch Championship side, do we think that can come up and not do that? Because otherwise, it's that sort of one for one swap, and nobody wants to see the sort of up and down, the same sort of 2-3 teams that are going to come up one season, get thrashed, move back down, and nobody really wants to see that either. So, there's we discussed it before. There's a bit of hate for the sort of Premiership at the moment. I think the fans online are not particularly great about it, and one of the bone of contentions is the sort of there's no relegation.
Yeah,
I think it's something to aim for, but I think it's probably unachievable in the short term, just in my opinion.
Yeah. Just throw some stats out there, like Van Rensburg. I mean, it's not it's no surprise, like heavy hitters came from Bristol in that game, like Van Rensburg, and absolutely like crushed it. Like led the round, 17 carries across gain line, 139 meters made, 2 tries, 3 tries assist. Ibitoye, exactly like in a similar vein, 9 defenders beaten, 211 meters made, 1 try, 2 assists, like absolute storming.
In fairness, that's the second week in a row I think you've had the top 2 in like most stats coming from Bears. And considering where they started in the season, though, right? Like they started in a bad way, and they were kind of looking like the Newcastles, the the Gloucesters, and they were getting beaten fairly routinely. And then in their last run of games, what is it, 4 games now unbeaten, and they're the only one in the Prem that has that kind of record. And now in the playoff kind of conversation, I think it's a massive up for them as well. Huge like proponents of attacking rugby. You saw Pat Lam come out and talk about the reason they were struggling is because they were trying to kick too much and play what is kind of traditionally considered smart rugby, right? So you start playing territorial, trying to win and trying to stop people from scoring. And that's not really Bears DNA. They just kind of fling it around. Like I think they kicked. I saw a stat online. They kicked twice during the whole game, 2 or 3 times during the entirety of the game, which is just unheard of, right? Like you just don't do that.
Yeah, it's unheard of in terms of the kicking stat, but at the same time, when you're not afraid to make mistakes, and it is when you're 20, 30 points clear, suddenly you're not kicking in a tight game to try and sort of get the ball back and defend in what is a small lead. Suddenly you're available, and once you get a team of that sort of caliber and quality that get space to fling it around, where usually sort of coaches like you'll play into this. But once you're 20, 30 points clear, and sort of Pat Lam no doubt went sort of enjoy the day, go for it. Once you've sort of got that free reign from a coach to go and use that flair and throw it about, Bristol looked like they were having fun. They looked like they were given a bit of freedom, earned a bit of freedom through sort of getting the early scores. However, really looked like they enjoyed that one.
Yeah. I was listening to a really good podcast the other day, actually. They had England centre Will Greenwood. Is it Greenwood?
Yeah, Greenwood.
Yeah, old school. And he was talking about how England set up and the England national team. He wants to see a bit more like flexibility in the game plan in terms of they've been told to they play the kicking game from the 22 straight off the bat. Set up a ruck, boom, kick it downfield. But what he wants to see more of is like, yeah, fine, stick to that game plan, but look like you might attack and just don't be so kind of one-dimensional sometimes in terms of, yeah, we know exactly what you're going to do. And this is where these other teams like absolutely thrive, like the likes of New Zealand, France, etc. Yeah, fine, they might kick it, but they might also attack and they might run, 80 meters and score. Yeah, it's an interesting one.
It's interesting though, because I think that's a common misconception, right? Like, so I looked at, for anyone who's listening and wants to see kind of how the England game plan might be developing, there's a really good guy called Wibble Rugby who put out a video about what's kind of developing, and how the kick strategy is designed to create attacking positions, and like how you and everyone like Test rugby is different, right? Like the guy who's the kind of second string hooker at X club just isn't on the pitch in Test rugby, so it's not, they're not slow, they can all do the chases. But it's really interesting how that game plan's going to, I think, or I hope, will evolve and turn into something quite exciting. And you saw it in the end of the Six Nations where they can score points and they can kind of attack while coupling it with what is exciting rugby. I mean, like I say, I'm not a big it's great to watch when you see kind of 85 points on the board, right? Like it's exciting rugby, but is it practical against? Can you do that against Saints?
Oh yeah.
Again, like against it, probably not. Like it's just then you have to go back to what is the pragmatic style. Not that Bristol will. I think actually they'll probably continue in the same vein they have, and hopefully it works out for them because it's exciting. And if it does start working, hopefully others can start kind of following suit. But just talking about Saints, actually, was a huge game for Saints and Tigers in the East Midlands Derby.
You stole my thunder, mate. You stole my thunder. So that victory saw Bears obviously move to 4th, Quins dropped 5th. But yeah, Saints, Tigers, big game. So first place Saints took on Tigers in 7th. I know this was one that we were all excited about. JVP v Mitchell. I've got the stats to back it up, but Keen, what you guys think? Who do you think won that matchup? Like,
so
obviously score, like suggests 40-17 Saints took the victory, but yeah, who do you guys think won the scrum half matchup?
I've long been a fan of JVP. I think he's a pragmatic and quite smart scrum half. It's interesting. It's good to see he's come back, right? So like that was a long old injury that he was off for before the World Cup, and that's gutting because he was arguably kind of England's first choice going into the World Cup, and then to have to sit out most of the season, miss the World Cup, it's got to be gutting. I think
Mitchell won. Simple.
Yeah.
Even the sort of stats you watch the game, watch a play, watch how sort of pivotal key moments sort of Mitchell. Yeah, I think even Ollie's going to rattle off some stats in a minute, but I'm pretty sure even just sort of from watching that game, you get the feeling that Mitchell was more comfortable, more calm, more in control than JVP. I think.
I disagree. I think actually, if you're behind a winning pack, then it becomes a lot easier to become a scrum half, right? Like if you're behind a team that's winning in your head, and Mitchell plays a very different style to JVP. Like Mitchell he's much like quicker and sharper on the snipe, so he kind of harries that your pillars around the breakdown, and it's not you have to mark him because if you don't, he'll take it. He'll take that space. JVP is probably a little bit more in the vein of like your kind of Ben Youngs, although he was supreme at the snipe back in his day, and JVP scored quite a few tries at the snipe as well. He's probably just a little bit more pragmatic in terms of the game plan. I don't think it was necessarily like you couldn't mark it and say JVP had a bad game, Mitchell had a great game, Mitchell was better. It was just like a winning team is always going to have better stats.
Yeah, I know, and because of that, I think Mitchell sat behind. I think you've got to look at probably some discipline in that game. What a yellow card and a red card. Like you've got to sit there and
bad day for Cada.
Sort of discipline didn't make it any easier. But Ollie, you're gonna rattle off some stats. Mitchell and JVP.
I'm just doing some final calculations and then I'll run it off.
Big thing as well is like I think it's the big thing for Leicester is that was an important game, right?
Yeah.
Like not just for the fans who want to win it because it's the East Midlands derby. It's probably one of the better derbies in the Prem, if not the best one. But then you start looking at like they needed that to stay realistically in the race for kind of the top 4, and I think that probably knocks them out. I mean, what's their running? I think they've got Bath, who, based on current form, you'd probably expect to take that one. They've got Bristol, which will be interesting. And then who else have they got to play? And then Sale, last year's finalists. So it's going to be tough for them. It's an uphill battle for Tigers if they're going to make the top 4 from here.
Yeah, and I think that game, the one try I was really impressed about. And again, I think it's like Finn Smith hitting an angle, seeing a gap, going for it. The little sort of at the back pass, Freeman, Hardy. Hardy must have been listening into the podcast 2 weeks ago where I called him a Weasley brother about like a mop of hair or whatever, and he's had a haircut. A Hendy, sorry, yeah, he's had a haircut and got rid of half of the ginger mop, so clearly listens to the podcast. That try for me summed up what is a really good look. I think of all of those 3 players doing really well in their positions, that was a clinical, lovely, smart try.
He was tidy as well, that line, and Freeman does that a lot. He runs really nice lines. It's one of his greatest strengths, right? He's smart in his positioning and where he needs to be in the support lines that come from it. And then that little offload out the back from Finn Smith, that was
confidence from the young guy.
Yeah. Finn Smith is getting better game on game. He's getting a lot of plaudits. He's getting a lot of for a young fly half, right? Like to come on I mean, bearing in mind the act he's following, right? He came in straight after Dan Bigger had gone to Toulon and like has made that shirt his own. And now the fact that his age and this point in his career, people are like questioning whether he overtakes Ford and Marcus Smith for that fly half jersey in the England shirt.
It was just his running, and again, like a fly half in that position, many fly halves just would have shipped out. But he hit that running line like a centre would hit. He hit that running line with somebody with outright, I'm going to take this on. And it was sort of good to see when quite a lot of probably 10s in that position would have just liked to ship it to sort of Freeman outside. But took
deceptively quick too. I saw a thing earlier in the season at the very beginning in the preseason where they were doing like a training thing. I forget what it is. It's something related to the army, and they do it every year and they kind of award a winner. And Finn Smith has came in and took. I think Alex Coles was the previous winner like 2 seasons in a row, and Finn Smith came in. He's deceptively quick. He's really fit. He kind of has a bit of a running game as well, which gives it an extra dimension, right? You have to mark him. You have to mark that option, which holds defenders where perhaps someone who doesn't necessarily offer that threat, it just gives something different. I mean, Marcus Smith is the extreme of that example, who is just his feet are crazy and he always takes the line. If there's a gap, half an inch of a gap, he'll spot it and go for it. So
yeah,
lots of strings to his bow.
Jen, in the Mitchell JVP debacle, not actually much in it, and like pretty close, and both put in serious work. I'll caveat this with JVP played 65 minutes, whereas Mitchell played 71. So Mitchell, 3 defenders beaten.
It's all about those 6 minutes. It's all about those 6 minutes.
Big 6 minutes.
Yeah.
That's where Mitchell's got all his stats.
JVP, 4 defenders beaten, so nothing in it there. Mitchell, 17 carries, JVP 7. Mitchell, 49 meters carried, JVP 38 meters made. Sorry, that should be meters made, which means JVP comes out on top 5.4 meters per carry, like strong, versus Mitchell's 2.8. Mitchell failed the gain line 5 times, crossed gain line 9 times. JVP only failed the gain line once, crossed 4 times. Mitchell 78 passes, JVP 36, but that's pretty standard. Like Saints had more of the possession, and then Mitchell 293 kick meters versus JVP's 196. Like 2 seriously exciting, pretty young as well. I don't know how old they are, but JVP can't be that old. Mitchell maybe a little bit older, at risk of sounding
that you start talking about them like they're quite young scrum halves, right? Like they're quite. People think about Mitchell now because he's pretty much the nailed-on England starter, right? So with Danny Kerr retiring, it's Mitchell's realistically your front runner at this point, but he's still only got like 20 some odd caps for England, and JVP's got similar, so that's still a fairly new duo. I think the interesting debate is going to be who takes that 3rd slot in what is kind of your squad, right? So thinking there's going to be 3 scrum halves as per usual, and there's 3 kind of runners. I think at the minute, you've got the likes of Spencer at Bath, who was in the Six Nations squad, Randall at Bristol, who is like the quickest, nippiest little, like you can't leave an inch at the breakdown because he takes it and it just goes. Very, very quick, very, very sharp, really fast and effective service from the breakdown. So he's definitely in the running. And then the 3rd one I think is Quirk. Kind of got his look in an England shirt against South Africa, scored a try on his debut against South Africa, did really well, really scored a try for Sale this weekend as well.
Straight off.
He's very athletic, very quick, good service, good boot, pretty good all-rounder, and he kind of like almost apprenticed under Faf de Klerk when he was at Sale. So I think those are probably kind of the runners and riders of that 9 position coming up for the summer tour. That'll tell a lot of where the thinking is. And you've seen Quirk kind of lauded a lot because his playing style suits what the guess is that kind of Borthwick wants. In English, he's just had a run of bad luck with being fairly consistently injured over the last 2 seasons. All different injuries as well. It's not like he's got like a, when you can see someone who's got like a problem in their hamstring, or the case may be, because it fairly continually gets injured, or their knee, or the case may be. I think he did his jaw, his foot, and his hand all like consecutively he came back, had a game or two, injured himself. I think Sanderson said he's just too fast twitch. He just puts himself in too many places where he shouldn't be and gets himself hurt. But yeah, I think that's ultimately that was a really interesting battle of the nines on that Saturday game. It's a really good game. I think Saints, it's just not looking like anyone can beat them at the minute.
Yeah,
like,
strong.
they play well. They're
as a team, I think they look comfortable in attack, comfortable in defence, like well structured. I mean, it'll be more if Saints do come up and lose. It'll be probably more on Saints having an off day than anybody else sort of outclassing them, I think.
Yeah,
100%. I think they can mix it with the best, and they showed that, right? They've shown that in the Champions Cup.
Should we move on? So that kind of victory from Saints saw Tigers drop to 8th in the table. Moving on then, Sarries, Gloucester. So Gloucester essentially fielded what some people have called essentially an academy side. So they made 11 changes to the EPCR side against Ospreys last week. But again, pretty big game, right? Sarries 46 points versus Gloucester's 24. Hat tricks apiece. Tom Parton brings them up to 6 tries for the season. Josh Hathaway, hat trick again. Three of his 4 tries came in that game, and some pretty good tries all round actually. Farrell, absolutely beautiful crossfield kick to Theo McFarland, with a mismatch against Jake Morris on the wing for that try, which was awesome. You guys got any kind of key takeaways from that game?
Just I'll point out straight away that Theo McFarland maybe did have a bit of a height advantage before.
That's what I said, mate.
Before he even jumped.
He had the mismatch, mate. He's like, I can't remember how tall he is, but yeah, absolute giant.
And for anybody sort of fancy and remembers sort of fantasy in the World Cup, Theo McFarland did not leave my side for weeks. Absolute sort of consistent in that second row. Big shout out in that game. I'm going to steal Chris's front row Union Thunder. Was Seb Blake.
I was going to say that as well, mate. So that grubber that he got rewarded. Beautiful.
His try at the end, I'm sure, was just karma. Given that reward, because that little grubber through, I saw it and I thought, the last person you want sort of in that position, but his little grubber through, and I was like, geez, it's like your replacement hooker. It's like the last person you want to sort of take on those last 2 defenders, and it absolutely nailed that little grubber through. And I was kind of like, it would have been impressive for a back to do. Like if a centre nudged it through, you'd be really chuffed. But the fact that it was like replacement hooker come on has nailed that. I think I did have a little massive grin on my face when I saw that happen. He must have as well, I think. Yeah, absolutely nailed it.
I mean, to be honest, I think it was actually a decent result for Gloucester. Like Saracens champions last season, fairly consistently the top of the Prem over the last few years. Probably in most people's minds, even after what is a rocky season, still probably the team to beat. But Gloucester did well with, like you said, I think if we're being honest, they've probably accepted like the Prem's not the league they're going to win this year. And this is where it comes down to no relegation again, because there's no real jeopardy at the bottom. So why put too much effort in? But they're still in Europe, so that's where they're going to put their big hitters, and that's why I think you saw the likes of like Zach Mercer, Carreras, all these people. They're kind of what would be usually their first choice. 15 kind of rested, but even that, the boys put up a really good challenge to what is a dominant team. That was pretty much a full strength Saracens.
And they showed a bit of grit to come back. I think what was it, 46-5.
Mark McCall will be fuming with that last quarter of the game, absolutely fuming.
And they showed a sort of bit of comeback, and don't get me wrong, all sort of through sort of Hathaway. The bit that we loved, it just an outright interception and a run in. Again, I'm not sure whether that was just feeling comfortable enough to sort of fling it about because you're that many points up. But yeah, you'd be absolutely, gift of a little sort of hat trick there, start of the hat trick. It's worth mentioning, I think it's like Patton, like his hat trick in the first half was the quickest hat trick in Prem.
Inside 20 minutes.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
And the first two were
Tom Parton had a really strong game, actually.
And the first two were very similar, like Goo just ship in, right, sort of easy enough, hands out to a wing put in. I think like his third one, the hat trick, is that little blind side. And so like the one thing you don't do is leave that sort of 5 meters out from the back of a maul, and you're sort of 2-on-1 on a blind side. That was a bit of a, I don't want to say it was an easy one, but that was a walk in, I think.
You know, I think was really interesting to watch was Tom Willis. I think he looked powerful in carrying, like as a replacement for what is Billy Vanapola, who maybe hasn't been at his best recently, and he's off to France next year. But Tom Willis is a big old unit. Like the first try that was disallowed, he got tackled, held by the line, he stayed up and drove past another two to dot it down. It was like, and from a standing start, right? It's not with momentum, like a big lad moving at momentum is a different thing to a guy standing still and just using brute force to push his way over two people. Like that's pretty impressive.
Mate, he had a good game. Like 1 try, 3 defenders beaten, 17 meters carried, 16 meters in contact, which is pretty strong.
He's probably not your like
made 11 tackles as well.
Yeah, and you look at how many rucks he entered. Like he's just, the work rate is big. Like he's probably not your like nippiest. He's not your Zach Mercer who's got really good footwork and stuff. But he is just a big old unit. Yeah, and it gets there, and you need that. I think he made a difference for them on the day. Yeah, good game. I mean, it was, the result I think was, if you were a gambling man, the money was on Saracens, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I think Leicester put up a decent fight, and I think they'll walk away, while not happy because it's still a loss, they'll walk away reasonably content with that result.
Yeah. Chiefs Bath. This was a pretty big game, I suppose. Like 6th place Chiefs take on 2nd place Bath. Bath take the win, so Chiefs drop to 7th, but you got the likes of Faye Boso, Cock and a Singer. Any kind of key takeaways from that game, guys?
I was fuming watching that game. There were so many. As a big, I really rate Faye Boso as a winger. I think he's kind of got all the makings of what could be a really kind of really top level world class player. And then you look at, and it's easy to say when I'm sat on my TV, sat on my couch, drinking a beer, watching the game, right? But you watch Josh Hodge run, it happened 2 or 3 times. I don't know if he just didn't realize he was there or forgot how to pass, but it's sharp little offload off to the side, to the outside to Faye Boso, and Faye Boso 1-on-1 with almost anyone, you back him, right?
He was like Faye Boso was actually pretty shut down that entire game. 2 defenders beaten, 54 meters carried. That was it. I
don't think he got the ball. His work, he was all over the pitch. You watch, he was trying, right? He's really trying. He was in a lot of rucks. You spent a lot of time in rucks at Faye Boso, which is always where you want your wingers.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen Johnny May scrum, so yeah. I don't know. There was, I think there was some easy tries. Ajomo, was it? His try was just, you think the fullbacks there got it sort of covered. Just that's an absolute gift, something that you'd like to hear out about, sort of coaching wise. I think we mentioned it earlier when we mentioned the sort of scrum half. Like Ben Spencer as well. Sort of if there's anybody who makes a sort of break, Charlie Ewells, wasn't it? Sort of made that big breakthrough, long legs, and if there's
did you see the step on the big man as well? I love his little face, his cheeky little.
This is a little bit that I'd love to point out. It's everyone says stay away from the touchline, right? You make a break, you come in field. But if he does that, you cut Ben Spencer's space down then, and the person tracking across. So it's absolute key analysis here, and I kid you not, for Charlie Ewells to take that person on the outside, knowing that like Ben
Oh no,
Spencer's
a
line.
lock taking someone
Yeah.
on the outside.
Like, but knowing that will open up the space and it holds the defender tracking across. Because if you come in field, like you've stolen Ben Spencer, so he's either got to go around you, gives time for the other covering player to get across, or Ben Spencer's got to stay inside where the covering player is. But actually, just to take that person then on the outside to leave Ben Spencer the space to go either outside or inside on the last defender. I'm not sure if it was just an absolute fluke from somebody in the second row, back row. But yeah, if it was absolutely meant, I mean, just a little key bit from watching it there. I think that try was lovely. And again, Ben Spencer's having a cracking season.
And the wheels to put it away as well. Like he was being chased down, and he, some serious wheels for what is, should we say, an experienced player, or one of the more experienced players. I think the big kind of headline for that game was like no Finn Russell, right? Like he's kind of been. I think he said it himself on one of the podcasts. I think it was Mall or Nothing, where he talked about like when he was asked like what's the difference this season between last season when Bath were getting kind of walked over. Is like, so it's interesting to see that Orlando Bailey stepped in. I think Spencer definitely took kind of a lead role in that game and kind of marshaled the team a little bit in that what would be that 10 role as well.
I think what was that? Is that our first win at Sandy Park in a few years, wasn't it?
Yeah, they haven't won there in age. I think it's since like it's a while. I forget how many it is. Quite a number of matches.
Years, and their first sort of win down. There was one point, obviously, what was the sort of disallowed try for obstruction? Did you see that?
I mean, it was about the clearest obstruction you've ever going to see.
It was a clear.
When you're Aaron Painter wearing a 7XL shirt, mate, you can't hide. Like it's not like
I'll just come in like nowhere near the run from the side, and I'll just hold you out the way. And I was like, I just kind of sat there and I was like instantly.
You're just like almost upright, like just pushing him, like you'd see like an American linebacker, like grabbing, just being like move.
Yeah, I did see that. I was like, that is the clearest obvious thing you will see on a pitch.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's Chiefs will be disappointed, but they're still a young team. I think they're already kind of ahead of expectations. They lost a lot of experience, like of Luke Cowan, Dickey, Jack Noel, all these kind of players who've left this season. But they've got a quality crop of young players there who give them a season or two. And I think they probably look dangerous.
And then last but not least, guys, and I know one for you, Chris, mate, because you're a Sale fan. Sale Quins, 8th place Sales for Colin, 4th place Quins, 37-31. Sale moved to 6th, making moves, and Quins dropped to 5th. Any key players in that game? I assume you watched it, Chris. You were glued to your TV.
I did. I watched it, and then I'll probably watch it again later. It was a good game. One of the better games from Sale recently. They've struggled later on in the season. They had a huge kind of bout of injuries where they lost a lot of players. The likes of Johnny Hill still out. Cobus Feast has been out for a long time. Ben Curry was out. Tom Curry's still out. Ford was out for a while. Harrison's out for a while. Like there's been quite a lot of just bad luck really in that team for quite some time, and now it's come back and I wouldn't say it was like the perfect performance, right? It wasn't as polished as they can be, and they've shown glimpses of some really good attack. There was a lovely pass from Rob de Prea. Beautiful pass to Aaron Reid, just puts him away.
Flat pass,
yeah. It was genuine piece of skill, and I think that's kind of, there's been some questions around him playing center versus playing 10 when Ford took over, because for a long time last season before Ford arrived at Sale, like while Ford was injured, he was arguably Sale's best player at 10. He was doing things, he was scoring tries, he was kind of all over the park. I don't think he's had quite the same impact at center, but there you should see the benefit, right? Gives you a little bit extra space, a little bit extra time, just flings that ball straight across the face to Aaron Reid, and then he runs it in the corner. So, and Aaron Reid was outstanding as always, really, really quick. Joe Carpenter had a good game. He's trying to think through before I say something silly. I think he's probably the second best aerial fullback in the game at the minute. second probably to Freddie Stewart. Like he's really, really strong, despite being not as tall or anything like that. But he's just committed. The thing I love about him is he's just like he just doesn't stop. He just keeps going. Like he just genuinely like almost in the fashion of like Mike Brown, right? Where it's just like just constantly at it and is running into things. Quirk again, really good game for him. He's probably one of my, really do rate him. I think he's going to be
good impact.
It'll be interesting to see kind of between him and Gus Warr, who Gus Warr's carried Sale in that 9 shirt for quite some time now, whether Quirk can kind of make a play for that that starting jersey. But
Curry, if we're looking at sort of Sale.
Curry was immense, but always isn't like he's just work rate. It's just non-stop work rate.
And Curry did well. No, I think, but let's take like Harlequins like to back up. I know Chris is loving the Sale chat. Liner again, guy knows his way to a try line.
Powerful, fast. Like he hawked down Roebuck, and Roebuck's not slow, right? Like and he's a big old powerful winger. That's a real win for Italy, I think, actually. And thing on Benetton next year, that's quite a big difference.
I think we chatted. Yeah, we chatted through at the sort of beginning as well, and we're talking about sort of what was the kicks and opening up space and attacking rugby. But just even right at the end, it's kind of that camped in your 22. You'd imagine that sort of Harlequins are clear, boot and get rid of it, but clear intent, sort of Marcus Smith, bang, wide, Murley, sort of round the outside, up, gone, like Quinn striking from sort of like deep in their own 22.
I have no fingernails left from the end of that game. Like Quinn's just hanging on to it and just like making fairly consistent little breaks, right? And that's how you march up pitch, is just like little break, probably 10, 15 meters here and there, and Murley was immense as well. Murley had a hell of a game.
I think that
powerful in the carry.
His Quinn's try early on, sort of the little delayed pass from Marcus Smith, sort of kind of himself coming, like hitting that line. It was just like beautiful. You'd imagine like a centre or fullback like hitting that line. Little delayed pass from sort of Smith, Murley, and that was that was lovely.
Putting himself in the carry is like, I don't think I've seen anyone like that before. Like he's just so aggressive in the carry. Like he always makes a couple of extra moves and he fights for it, right? Like just dogged. You've stopped him dead, and then he's like, nope, I'm still gonna I've got an extra 2, and he'll just like push from almost like a stood start a little bit further. And like that's what you need in that. He's determined to get that extra bit of gain line.
The only person probably slightly more, like as aggressive on the day was Esterhazen, who I'm becoming such a massive fan of. I think it was just all right. It was pretty late, that like big smash on George Ford, but even his carries early on, sort of even in the wide, just absolute beast of a game.
And Marcus Smith benefits from that hugely, right? Like because he's a default like option of like, oh, if it's not on, just give it to Andre.
Absolutely, get out a free jail card for any fly half is massive 12.
I have a massive 12.
Oh, the footwork isn't working. Right, pop off, bang.
Andrew, get in here.
Yeah.
Nice little teamwork there.
Shame he's off. He's off to is he off to Sharks next year? I think. Yeah, he's back to South Africa, one of the South African teams.
Yeah, I think he is. I think you're right. I was reading something about that the other day. Right, that concludes kind of Gallagher Prem action, guys.
Long review of the game.
Yeah, that was a big one.
Yeah, it's a big one. Six Nations, round 4. Yeah, round 4. England absolutely demolished Ireland, 88-10. Italy, Scotland closer. Italy 10, Scotland 17. Wales again thumped by France, 40 points to 0. Did you guys catch any of the games? Yeah, did you guys catch any of the games?
Yeah, I caught some of the England game, bit of the France game as well. England just looked like they clicked. Like they've had some. I mean, we're gonna say like they've had some struggles. They've won every game convincingly, right? Like it's not even been close. It's just But they're even so like, and that's when you know you're like in a strong position when you're not at your best, and you're still putting away teams by big margins, right? Like, and that's the gulf, and I think it's great for the English team, and it shows what the investment can do, right? When you invest in it and when you do it right. But
yeah, I mean, have you guys got the table in front of you?
No,
Just
not in front of me.
Hazard a guess. How many points England have against them?
20.
Bang on.
Just trying to think back now. Is it
20
20?
I don't. Look, Hans here. I haven't got the thing up right.
You liar.
Mate, the points difference
Welshman
is
looking for a win.
208. Like 208 points difference. That's
and a game to go.
Yeah, and a game to go. Like that is absolutely mad.
The impressive thing is, like, look where the tries were sort of scored, and it's that really sort of just clever, good rugby, and it was really smart rugby actually. If you watch it, sort of like the wingers are going in, the ball's getting out wide, the hands are working the pass. Like it's relatively simple rugby, and it was simple done well. And it was a case of sort of like phases, good sets of hands, good passes, out to your wing and fullback, going in wide, going in over. And it really was sort of like, as a game, I mean, even coaches must be looking at that and go like, that's what we're aiming to achieve. We're trying to get that phase, ball out wide, wing goes in. It's like what any sort of coach starts off with, and it was. Yeah,
you look at how many points were scored by the back three, and I think that's always a sign of like a plan that's going well, right? Because like when you looking at putting together a move, it usually ends with one of your back three in space and it's going. And what was it, 8 tries between the back three of the English back three, which is just ludicrous. And yeah, like I say, it was a plan coming together, and it's just a sign of. And I'm sure that the other nations' teams will, like, that gap will narrow as time goes on. Scotland's improved this year. Ireland's improved this year. Wales have some really promising players. I think they probably just need to sort out the infrastructure around the game and how that's going to work for the women's game. So I expect that gap will narrow. It's just going to take time.
Yeah,
but for now,
we said last weekend, didn't we, that sort of this weekend, these games we were all really looking forward to the last weekend's worth of games. You've got sort of Wales, Italy, and I think Italy aren't sort of at the bottom now, just on a bit of points difference. But sort of Italy, Wales, you've got England, France, which are both 4 from 4, I think, haven't lost. So yeah, it's all sort of all eyes on next weekend, and it should be a good round of games.
Of note, though, you both laughed at me last week when we talked about an all-English back three. Panned out for me.
Yeah.
Loved it. 8 tries. Watching that game, just sitting there racking the points, giving it big licks in the WhatsApp group.
Which brings us perfectly on to how your guys' your Six Nation fantasy teams got on.
Well, I got nearly your team's worth of points from one player, so
yeah. Big story of the
252. Yeah.
Big story of the weekend. And if you follow our sort of socials, you would have seen a sort of cheeky meme that went up midweek, which was sort of like your weekly reminder to captain Ellie Kildern. This weekend would have seen you with, if you did captain her, 252 points, which is absolutely huge. Chris is over the moon because obviously an all England back three that he picked up, and obviously between them that was
fairness.
how many. Yeah.
So 252, 77, 300. So then you're looking probably just shy of 400 across the back three feeling. But I will give you this. I think your Dinka from Italy actually scored, I think, 6 more points than Jess Breach, despite Jess Breach's 2 tries. She seems to be a bit of a like. So Kildon, I don't know where her points all came from because that was just mental. I mean, she's great, right? She's just everywhere, huge work rate and quick and scores tries, kind of everything you want at a fullback, right? But I think Jess Breach she finished them, but she didn't seem to have that many, or at least from the fantasy. So I think she didn't seem to have that many other involvements that kind of helped her score points. But still, really good points tally. Worth the investment, definitely worth the investment.
I lost some points. I think,
and I was very smug.
Rosie Gallagher. Yeah, Rosie Gallagher for England was a bit of a favourite for quite a lot of people. Didn't start due to sort of last-minute injuries, and I didn't manage to. I was playing rugby, so I didn't manage to swap my team in time. So there's a couple of people ended up missing out some points with her. But in our little fantasy league, I think I still managed to move up 5 places on the weekend to 21st.
Yeah, you did.
Chris moved up 7 places.
Me.
Yes, Chris moved up 7 places to 28th.
It means nothing until I can get past you, which I will next year.
DXB Pride's all
French
on
players didn't have to
weekend.
get home. Yeah, exactly. It'll be interesting. No, I think, and there's some players who didn't have the game that I thought they might have, like so Alex Callender, usually really, really strong for Wales, usually big point scorer.
Ether Wafer had a huge game for Ireland the sort of week before. She was a big fan, and didn't have the points this weekend.
It's tough to put in big points when you get, and this isn't to kind of rub it in, but it's tough to put in big points when you get beaten by 80 plus points. Like that's bad.
Yeah.
As Newcastle will attest.
Yeah. Cool. What have we been up to this week, guys? This, I think, is pretty exciting news. We've got kind of website dev, player selection refinement, and actually next week we'll be able to. We're in a position to actually kind of between the three of us start playing our own game, kind of, albeit in kind of beta version. But yeah, next week we'll be able to actually play it for real between us and kind of I mean, I'm going to be the first person to admit on a Monday I'll just trawl through all of the players and pick the best team, and then you guys can read it and weep.
I'm really looking forward to seeing for our sort of first time really our scoring metrics, and obviously fans of fantasy out there that are sort of listening. It's built around what is your scoring metrics, what you're getting points for, who's getting points, how many points you're getting for certain acts. So for me, it's really all about the first time of feeding what is sort of live data into our scoring metrics. And this is all sort of good feedback and good testing for us because, again, nobody wants to see sort of somebody coming back. Look at sort of captain and kill done for this weekend, 252 points, absolutely miles above anybody else. So so it's going to be really interesting.
Great for me, less good for actually anyone. It's difficult. And this is what you want to marry up is finding that balance of where is everything weighted appropriately? Is anyone scoring massively consistently from one particular area? So our game, actually, one of the things I've noticed is it's quite high scoring. So the scores are probably higher than certainly any of the Premiership games out there, and probably even in the Six Nations and stuff that people will be used to. But I think that comes from the fact that we have 20 plus metrics that are accumulating points and or losing points as the case may be. There's not that many negative, but and there's some that are different in there, and we've tried to make it as accurate to the game as possible, in terms of so you'll see some nuance in terms of having decimal points afterwards because you're getting a percentage, sorry, not a percentage, a portion of a point for every minute played as opposed to getting 1 point for every 10 minutes played, say. So it tracks quite interesting. So far I'm quite happy with how it's looking. I think it looks fairly no massive kind of problems jumping out. We've still got to introduce the player of the match one, and that'll be interesting to see how that impacts because the average is looking about 30 some odd points so far, but I don't know if that's just because I'm an ace picker and they're all going through, so I need to troll through all the players and see what people are coming back with. Other big ones you've probably seen, we've all been involved, kind of big moves on social media, trying to get a lot more content out there for you guys. Start seeing this broken down in shorts, start seeing it broken down into little more consumable pieces of content if you don't fancy listening to us chat nonsense for 40 minutes to an hour depending on how long I go on for. So that'll be a big shift. So any suggestions really welcome on that side. about how we can kind of make more valuable content for you, make it more useful. And if you are finding any value in that, or you want to see more information about the game and stuff and how it's going, then please give us a like, follow, subscribe, share, tell your friends, all that kind of stuff. It really, really helps, and makes things.
We're
it's a nice little boost every time you see that notification flick up.
Yeah, we're trying to find a spirit animal for Chris. Ollie's quite content with his little raccoon dancing around in a circle. I found my spirit animal in form of a gorilla number 8. So yeah, little competition out there. Get your spirit animals in for Chris, and we'll make sure we get some more new reels out.
Would you say be nice?
Yeah, be nice. To all 8 of you who listen.
Mate, the internet is not a nice place.
Yeah, especially like Premiership Rugby internet. That isn't, negative people.
Brutal, mate. So next week's games, guys. We got Gallagher Premiership round 16 action, which sees Bath take on Sarries, Tigers take on Bristol, Quins, Saints, Newcastle Sale, Gloucester Chiefs. Any unmissable games there, guys? What are you not going to miss?
Well, I'm not going to miss Quins Saints because we're going. So we'll be at Twickenham for that one.
Oh,
good
nice.
Fun. Yeah, it's got a nice little deal on some tickets. So going to head down there with a few mates. Hopefully, now you'll be joining as well if you're not busy playing for Wales on the.
I've actually got spare tickets, so the first person that comments on this in either Spotify or YouTube, I'll take you to this game, just because I feel sorry that you had to listen to us for like 40 minutes. So there's a shout. First person to comment and listens to this, I'll take you to the game. There you go.
Obviously, I'll be watching the Sale games because Sale fan. But I think the big ones, the ones that'll be interesting to watch, is Bath Saracens. That'll be a really good game.
What's that? Second versus third, something like that.
Yeah, that's kind of the big hitter.
Second place Bath, third place Sarries, 8th place Tigers, 4th Bears. Caveat all of this with actually from to be honest, from 8th to 4th, there's 6 points in. There's 6 points in it. Leicester 39 points, Bristol on 45, Bristol 4th, Leicester 8th.
I think the real contenders at this point for the run in now, you've got 3 rounds left. Is that right? 16, 17, 18. Yeah, you got 3 rounds left. I think realistically, you're looking at Bristol, Quins, Sale, and Exeter on the outside to kind of looking for that 4th spot. I'd say Bath are fairly safe going into that. Going into the run in, they need 1 win and 1 bonus point to give them what is a 2-game buffer, really, 2-win buffer from anyone else to kind of knock them out, and that's fairly safe. So if they can, if they beat Saracens this weekend, that'll solidify their place. I'd argue that's the kind of real big threat for them. Sale have probably a lot of chasing to do. They need quite a big win to kind of see off Bristol. But if Bristol continue this form, right, Bristol have probably quite a difficult run in now.
Tough games,
but they can do it. They can absolutely do it. It's going to be a really, really interesting last 3 rounds between those teams. I mean, Exeter can still mathematically do it. Probably unlikely, but can be done.
Yeah. And then Six Nations, guys. So I think they're all on Saturday, right? I think.
Super Saturday.
We've got Wales, Italy, Ireland, Scotland, France, England. I mean, the biggest one there's got to be France, England, right, for first place. Who do you see taking that? Yeah, who do you see taking it?
Red Roses. If you're putting money on, and even if you're not putting money on, the Red Roses would have to do something to embed themselves to let sort of France take that. And they've just gone
France are good.
Yeah, they've gone from confidence to confidence. I think that first game for England didn't click against sort of Italy, and you thought there, but from that moment on, they've clicked. And last weekend against Ireland was dominant and confident, and I'd expect to see sort of fireworks coming out against France. However, France is still sort of they've won all their games as well. Probably not as confident as sort of Red Roses, but that'll be the game of the weekend. Expecting a good game, but you'd expect sort of Red Roses to take the win. Not that looking forward to the Italy. Wales obviously bottom, not one win, and even a win sort of over Italy doesn't remove us from bottom of the table. We'd still sort of have to win by quite a decent point margin.
Like I said, there's some quality players in that team though. I really think the thing with Wales at the minute, and that this goes across the men's and the women's games, is kind of how it's structured in the country at the minute. It's not necessarily the caliber of player you have, because you have some really, really strong players. It's just a case of, is it set up right to succeed, basically.
Yeah, and sort of the WRU and Nigel Walker made a sort of, it got trashed a bit online because it said that sort of they want to make the women's game in Wales the best it can be. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to get the most amount of money, which, if you look at anything else, let's be honest, the professionalism is more, translates the more money that you're going to put into it, chances are the better outcome it's going to get. So yeah, that got a bit of a.
Did you see the post where it looked like he was asleep at the women's game?
Yeah,
I don't think he was, but it was a really unfortunate picture from the.
Yeah, it was just reading the inside of his eyelids. Yeah, no, it's still interesting. I said it's probably the best round of games in terms of sort of equality of the games. I mean, you've got France and England both at the top, Ireland, Scotland both mix it in the sort of middle, Wales, Italy. So it should be, for what is a Super Saturday of games. Lots of little deciders in their own rights, really.
Yeah, really good.
Nice. And the first time we're going to do this, like for real, I think. But let's pick our Gallagher DXV Dream 15 Fantasy galore for next week. So Chris, you take the pack, mates. We've mentioned the likes of, for both of you guys, the likes of like Seb Blake, Tom Willis, Rob Dupree, Aaron Reed. Any of those guys going to feature in your team? Chris, you're up, mate. Let's get your pack for next week.
So pack, this is hard when it's not been selected yet, but let's go. Hooker is the easy one, because I think I'm going to go Curtis Langdon. Has been on fire for Saints, and Saints are probably the kind of dominant team in the Prem at the minute. Alex Coles as well goes in at lock. I think massively underrated for his skill set. You've seen with the emergence of the likes of Ollie Chesham and George Martin, and then alongside obviously Mara Toje, that position's been fairly well filled. But I think Alex Coles is massively underrated in that position. Big athletic lock, scores tries, you saw on the weekend, kind of galloping across the pitch, really, really strong, and can play 6 and in the second row. Just going through them in terms of that, I'd probably go Alex Dombrandt in the back row as well, who's been really impressive, I think, all season. I think he's not the most breakdown turnovers one. He's close. He's not far off. So I'd pick him, and certainly he's a fairly consistent starter for Quins, and kind of he's become almost like talismanic for that team as well, alongside Marcus Smith and Danny Kerr. That 8, 9, 10 combo is really, really important for them. Gonna have to go with Ben Curry from Sale, also in the back row. I know I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but it's because where my mind's taking me. Ben Curry's also going to go in the back row. Just because he's impressive around the park, quick, and he's really, really important to that team as well. Who else am I going to go for in my back row? Who takes my final place? What are the games again next weekend?
This is the thing with sort of picking your fancy teams is, like, even though we want to go with the sort of players in forms, but if they're coming up with a tough game, obviously looking at the weekends ahead, sort of like Sale, Newcastle, that's a bit of a sort of split in there, a bit of a mismatch maybe. So again, players, I'm looking at sort of my backs now and thinking, Jesus.
I might go for a Chiefs Ethan Roots as well. In the back row, he's done well. Really, probably, maybe a Fisselau. Yeah, I'll go for a Greg Fisselau from Chiefs as well. See if he gets a start. I rate him really highly as an 8. I think he's strong. good carrier, quick, good hands as well. So I'll back him. Then I've got one more lock to fill.
So you got one lock and two and front row props. You've picked your hooker already.
Yeah. The lock is going to be the hardest one because there's a lot to choose from there. Who's Leicester? Leicester have probably got arguably the best choice of kind of locks at the minute, between obviously George Martin injured, but even Harry Wells and Ollie Chestnut have done really, really well. You know who I am going to go for? Sorry, Saracens, Theo McFarland. Even though it's going to be a tight game,
standard fancy pick.
That guy brings it home. And he plays in the back row as well, so he's a cheeky little pick. Then props. Ellis Genge goes in, just because his carrying and his try score potential, like out from the line. There's one guy you don't want to see getting the ball with a bit of pace on him. It's Genge, so I'm backing him. And then finally in the props, I've got Ellis Genge and one more prop to go. Who do I really, really want to play? Thomas du Toit for Bath.
Du Toit?
Either Thomas du Toit for Bath or Finn Baxter for Quins.
Are you down for Du Toit, mate?
Go Toit. Yeah, I'm going to go to Toit.
No.
And that completes my pack.
I know it's just difficult because we've even smashed through even like it's like right, just pick scrum half. That's easy. And from our chat earlier, like we chatted about sort of Rafi Quirk coming in, making sort of impact. We chatted about the JVP Mitchell. We chatted about like Ben Spencer,
Harry Randall.
Yeah, just sort of going in. I think not to be Mitchell.
And imagine doing this with budget. With
like,
budget.
Yeah.
Like,
and sort of without even. Again, we've always said the difference between me and Chris. Chris likes looking at stats, looking at games, whose the matchup is, who's going to do well, who's sort of. We spoke earlier, Mitchell. I mean, it's easy to be good when you're sat behind a really good pack, right?
Go off feel, mate. Go off feel.
So I'm going to go off feel.
We'll go next week, mate. You've got 4 points.
Okay, I'll go Mitchell at 9.
Okay.
I think at 10. Finn Smith, no.
He has been consistent.
Yeah.
He has been consistent.
Yeah,
but Marcus Smith offers that extra bit of like try scoring as well.
Like the Quins, and I sit there but then
that's a big matchup as well, boys. Like Finn Smith versus Marcus Smith. The Smith.
Yeah, and I want to pick Esterhazen because I think, again, sort of get out Marcus Smith when you're at sort of that Smith. Like the get out of Esterhazen's been just quality at sort of 12, probably in. But then again, I look at the matchups, like I like Sale, Newcastle, like let's have a look at sort of Tuolangi and like Sale and like.
Tuolangi was. Did you see his little near break, by the way? Like he got hooked just at the end. He's so good.
Yeah, sort of Tuolangi against Newcastle. He probably isn't my first choice sort of centre, but in fantasy, when you're looking against Sale, Newcastle, you back Sale against them to put some points across, and again, sort of. Tuolangi and then
in a friendly Newcastle beat Sale not too long ago.
So right, Tuolangi, Esterhazen centres, big smash up.
Just gone power, just absolute
pure power.
Force.
But then I looked at like
Tuolangi, Esterhazen.
Yeah, going big powerful centres going in. I think the back three's the worst because again, without sort of like picking an out and out fullback. I don't know if I'm going to go. Let's have a look at these games quickly. Not sure if I want to go sort of liner. He just knows his way to the try line. Smash it up. Yeah, let's go liner. I don't know, Bath, Saracens. Yeah,
Wilmuir.
Yeah, Cockney bad. Merley. Let's have a look.
Waboso.
Yeah, but Chiefs, Gloucester. Not sure. Let's go liner. Let's go. I don't know off the back who we got. Bath, Saracens. Oh, don't know. Liner. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, let's go Merley.
Yeah.
Saints. Oh, I don't know. Saints though. But I love a counter-attack, Quins. Yeah, let's
If
go
there's
there.
one team that can find a way, it's Quins, right? Like,
yeah,
they don't seem to like being in front at the half time, so they just always come back in the second half. So
that's true. Fullback. Now, fancy. Can I pick a wing at fullback? Back three?
yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So what do we think of what do we think the big sort of mismatches are though?
I think Chiefs could do a job at, I think Chiefs could do a job at Gloucester. You've got Aaron Reid potentially at Sale.
Played well, yeah.
Tom Roebuck at Sale as well.
Bears, Tigers, fourth.
Max Malin, Gabriel
Ibitoye. Yeah,
Malin
did do nice try.
Ibitoye would be a strong shout.
I don't know. Let's go off try. Malin's. There you go. Back three.
He was top try scorer from the Prem, I think, not last season, but the season before
Running
as well.
A nice little...
That was in a Sarries team that wins, but
strong team. I mean, this is going to become harder, right? But like, I say harder, it'll become easier in a way when we've got a salary cap and all that.
You hungry?
Yeah, I am. I've got a steak downstairs.
Counting calories.
I've got a steak downstairs. I'm absolutely starving. Cool. Yeah. So just run through that again. So we've got Genge, Langdon, Detroit, Coles, McFarland, Fistelau, Don Brandt, Curry, Mitchell, Smith, Tuolangi, Esterhazen, Liner, Murley, and Malins. Strong team. We will.
That is a filthy centre partnership.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, Jesus.
We'll see how they perform next week, guys. Cool. That concludes another week of DXV Rugby, guys. As ever, if you aren't sick of us and you want more rugby-focused content like this and awful chat, then please follow us on any one of X, Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, where we post daily rugby insights and keep you up to date on our progress, ready for our launch in August this year. Don't forget to comment below for a free ticket to Quins v Saints this weekend either. You can enjoy that game with Nye and Chris. And yeah, thanks for joining us.
Enjoy loosely, but
yeah, exactly. But yeah, thanks for joining us, guys, and see you next week.